So let's do another question related to the capital asset pricing model chapter that you may need to understand if you're studying for your undergrad, graduate studies like an MBA, or even your level one CFA. The first thing that I would definitely recommend to do is have your formula sheet open next to you. You really want to have something that you could quickly resort to if you're not too sure what formula is needed within this sort of question, within this sort of chapter. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to look at this new portfolio beta question and we're going to break it down into pieces. How do we do that? We're going to read the question together. We're going to start highlighting little bits of information that actually may go in our main formula. And then we're just going to solve for the missing piece of the puzzle. It's often as easy as that. Okay. And there are a few little notes that I'd like to kind of highlight within this question because you may be you may feel the need to use the previous tool, the pass that I like to use, but in this case, it won't work because we don't have equally invested or just equal investments within our assets within our portfolio. Okay, so let's go about it. Let's try to solve this together and let's try to make something that looks complicated actually really easy and kind of follow the step by steps. I've done a similar question on my YouTube channel in which I kind of address all the different points you need. But let's do it again from a different perspective. So the Golden Rule Endowment Fund has invested in 10 stocks. And actually, I'm going to take a step back. I'm just going to highlight the formula I really need you all to remember and give you a quick little description of what it means. The formula for the beta of a portfolio is pretty straightforward. Okay, it's simply equal to this. So it's going to be the weighted average sum, or the weighted sum, I guess, of all of its individual betas. Okay, and that may not look like much, and I maybe haven't, maybe I didn't describe it the right way. That's possible, but a really good intuitive display of the formula would be as follows. So check it out. We could write that the beta of a portfolio is simply as follows. It's simply going to be the weight of the asset A or portfolio A times the beta of asset A or portfolio A plus the weight of asset B times the beta of asset B plus the weight of asset C times the beta of asset C plus three little dots to kind of highlight continuity, highlight that we're going to repeat this methodology forever, all the way to the weight of the nth asset times the beta of the nth asset. So just to give you a quick little further perspective is that if we only had one asset in our portfolio, well, it'll simply be equal to the beta of that one asset because it'd be 100, so 1 times the beta of that one asset. But if we had, let's say, 3 assets in our portfolio, then our formula would stop here because we would find the weight of A times the beta of stock A plus the weight of B times the beta of stock B plus the weight of C times the beta of stock C. So for example, this could have been 20%. This could be, I guess, 40%. And then this would be, I guess, another 40%, right? And the betas would be random numbers all over, okay? So that's how you would use a formula. And of course, if there's more than just 3 assets, well, you're going to have to continue again and again and again up until you get to that last asset. In this case, we have 10 assets. And I'm going to be even that comprehensive, but I'm going to showcase what that formula would look like if we were to use it for these 10 assets. So we would have something like this. We would have the beta of the Golden Rule endowment fund, their portfolio, would be equal to weight of asset 1 times the beta of asset 1 plus the weight of asset 2 times the beta of asset 2 plus the weight of asset 3 times the beta of asset 3, little dots because I'm lazy, all the way to the weight of asset 10 times the beta of asset 10. So do you get what this continuity, little 3 dots are trying to highlight? It's just trying to tell you listen, man, you just got to repeat this again and again and again. Okay. So let's go back to our question and let's try to identify a few pieces as we read through it. So we know we have 10 stocks. That's pretty cool. We also know that our portfolio has a beta of 1.93. That's awesome. We know that the beta of our portfolio is equal to 1.93. And if we want to be even that more comprehensive, you would highlight this right here. You know that you already have this piece of information. Right now, I guess we're solving for the different weights or maybe the different betas. We don't know just yet. but I mean, I do know this can be for the new portfolio beta, but still, good skill to have. So, in fact, I guess there's a little error, but in fact, the fund has invested in Nero Inc. and Shindo and Company, along 8 other stocks. So we know that we have this investment in Nero Inc., and we have an investment in Shindo and Company, and then we have 8 other stocks that we decided to just not mention. Okay, so we're going to call this, I guess, asset A, asset B, and then here we're going to call this the remaining. Okay, you could call this remaining assets. And they're telling you that Nero Inc., okay, represents 28%. So you could say that Nero Inc., so the weight of A, is equal to 28% of the portfolio. That's pretty awesome. You could actually go ahead and highlight this within all of our formulas. Now, I guess this would not be as valid anymore. So you can maybe like remove these. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to be a little bit surgical with it. There you go. So that's awesome. And then we also know that Shindo and Company represents 20.5% of the portfolio as well. So we could go ahead and call this weight of B, and it's equal to 20.5%. Okay, that's once again awesome. We have more information that we can use to our advantage. Okay, now it seems like we don't know the betas just yet, so let's continue reading. Okay, so they're telling you, note that Nero Inc. has a beta of 0.528. That's awesome stuff. So we know that the beta of asset A, in this case, that we coined it as asset A, is equal to 0.528. What a nice number. While Shindo and Company has a beta of minus 1.7. Now that's pretty crazy, and it's a whole different topic. But for the question, we're going to assume that that's possible. Like, well, that it's that's common, and that we decided to invest in that. That'd be awesome. So we have beta A and beta B. We could go ahead and kind of highlight those as well within our formulas. Look at that. It's starting to actually look like something. Now, of course, we know that there's actually like this remaining portion of our portfolio, right? There's the remaining like 8 stocks that we didn't really talk about. This remaining 8 stocks, technically, if we were to like visualize it, if you would want to do that, it would represent this portion of our formula. This would be like the remaining stocks, right? That we just don't see yet. But it's still important to kind of understand that we only have a portion of the data we need, okay? Or do I? Or do we? The cringe is insane. But yeah, we only have, a portion of the formula, and then the remaining assets, we're going to try to find a way to work around them, okay? But luckily for us, we do know the portfolio beta, and that's going to be really important. However, let's move towards the mission of this question. What do we actually need to do to solve this problem? So in this question, they tell you what will be your new portfolio beta. All right, so what will be your new portfolio beta if you sell? So you're going to sell all of your investment in Nero Inc. and in Shindo and Company. And once you do that, you're going to invest the proceeds in the risk-free asset. So in other words, all of our money that was invested in Nero Inc. and Shindo and Company, we're going to place all of that money into the risk-free asset. So let's take it like 2 seconds just to highlight something. What is the beta of the risk-free asset? I've talked about this several times, but the beta of the risk-free asset, I need you to remember this. This has to be a rule. It's equal to 0, okay? The beta of the risk-free asset is equal to 0 because the risk-free asset does not contribute to the general variance of the market. There are a few different videos that kind of touch upon this. If you were a really good student of East House, you went through all of them and you had that extra exposure. Okay, so you know that the beta of the risk-free rate is equal to 0. And once again, just a quick little, I guess, image here to remember is that our mission is really all about solving for our beta of our portfolio prime. We don't know what that is, like the new beta. We're not sure. So that's our mission, okay? Now, what I'd like to do is just a quick exercise just for you to kind of get a sense of what the next steps will look like. So let's draw 2 circles. And these circles are meant to kind of represent essentially what we're doing here, really. What does a sale actually what does it actually mean for us? Okay, so let's do just that. So right now, if this is our portfolio, I guess we're going to call this our new portfolio and our old portfolio. So I'm going to zoom in a lot just to kind of, really make sense of everything for you. It should be helpful, I hope at least. If not, you can skip through this part, and there should be hopefully some timestamps for you to kind of know where you are throughout the question. So you can kind of focalize or focus on the parts that matter for you. So this is going to be our portfolio. I guess I'll move it a little bit. This is going to be our portfolio, but we're going to call this like portfolio old because it's our original portfolio before the sale. So I guess I'll write before sale. Okay. This is going to be our portfolio after the sale. It's going to be the same thing, really. So in other words, portfolio post-sale will be the portfolio with the risk-free asset. Okay, so we have two different portfolios. Now, what's awesome is that we could actually like kind of make sense of this. We know that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's 28% that's invested in Nero Inc. So it should be at the very, very least something like this. So 28% is invested in Nero Inc. And we could, I guess, kind of like highlight it like that. Okay, 28% is invested in Nero Inc. Okay, that's 28%. We also know that 20.5% is invested in, what's it called? I believe Shindo Co, something like that. Shindo Co, exactly. So we could make it something that looks a little bit like this. That should be correct. I don't know, but it should be okay. So this is what Shindo Co represents. I'll call this Shindo. And it was 20.5%. Okay? And then we have the remainder of our portfolio, which we're going to put in black. The remainder, the remaining section of our portfolio, that's going to be equal to, if I do some quick math, we have 48.5, so we at least have 51.5. Okay, so 51.5% of our portfolio will actually represent our remaining 8 stocks. So these are the remaining 8 stocks. That's pretty awesome stuff. Now, if we were to draw the same thing onto our different, like when we actually sell all of our good stuff, we would have something that would look a little bit differently or a little bit different. But the difference isn't really grandiose. So what we're going to have now is going to be something like this, where we're going to have our investment in the risk-free asset instead of our investment in Shindo and Nero. So this is going to be the risk-free, which is going to represent 48.5%, if I could do some quick maths. And then we're still going to have the remaining 8 stocks, which is going to be right here. Okay? This is going to be just another way for those who are a little bit more visual, okay, to understand what the hell we're doing here. So this is the remaining, and this represents 51.5%. Okay? So that's kind of what we're up to right now. So we can visualize, I think that was like not too bad. We can visualize what we're going to be doing, okay? So the first step is we need to figure out, although we know how much we have invested ourselves in Shindo and Nero, we don't know what is how much beta, all right, is, or I'll say it in a better way. We don't know the actual like magnitude of the betas of the 8 other stocks. So we need to solve for that, because once we're able to solve for that, we'll be able to solve for our new portfolio beta once we divest into the risk-free asset. Okay, so I guess we could call this as being part. I'm trying to figure out what color I'm going to use. That's like my issues right now. So we're going to essentially display what happens once we invest. Once we well, before we do that, we need to find what's the remaining 8 betas. What do they represent? So beta of other 8 stocks. So you can write it like this as being part A. The reason why this is important is because we won't be able to solve for the new portfolio beta unless we know this information. So once again, we know that the beta of our portfolio will be equal to weight A times the beta of A plus weight B times the beta of B. But in this case, we're going to simplify this as being weight of the 8 remaining stocks times the beta of the 8 remaining stocks. Okay, that's pretty darn important. Now, once again, if I were to highlight stuff, okay, which we did above, we know this portion here, we know this portion here, we know this, we know this, we know this, but we just simply, and actually we also know the weight of those 8 different stocks, but we simply don't know, okay? We simply don't know the beta of those 8 remaining stocks. So effectively, the beta of those 8 remaining stocks will be our X, okay? This is what we're solving for, okay? So then the next step would just be to plug in everything that we have. So we know that the beta of our portfolio is equal to 1.93. So we would say 1.93 is equal to, and I'm gonna have to retrieve the numbers just because I don't really remember them. I'm gonna say it's 28%. We're gonna have 28% times the beta of A. And the beta of A is 0.528. I hope I have enough space. If not, we'll move stuff around. So that's going to be one portion. Then we have the beta of B, which is 20.5% times its, I guess the weight of B times the beta of B, which is going to be as follows. Then we're going to have 51.5% multiplied by X. Okay, and that's going to give us I'm just going to make sure that all of our information is okay. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit sluggish. It's probably like the 8th question that I'm doing today in a row. So I really do apologize for that. So please don't hesitate to follow this timestamps to kind of skip through the question if I'm being annoying. I totally get it. So we're going to do a quick sense check just to see that we have everything. The portfolio beta is 1.93. 28% is invested in Nero Inc, if I'm not mistaken, whereas its beta is 0.528. That's correct. We also know that Shindo Co represents 20.5% of the portfolio's wealth. We know its beta is minus 1.7. And we also know that by definition, this means that 51.5% is invested in portfolio, the 8 remaining stocks, right? And we're solving for the beta of the 8 remaining stocks. So that's amazing. We're super stoked. And yes, that's correct. So what I'm going to do now, because it's the first time that I've ever done this question, and I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, we're just going to plug everything in within our little symbol lab here, and we're going to see what's our X. So at the same time, you could do it too. You could try to solve for this. And after, I'm going to do another sense check just to make sure that I didn't make any errors. Might have a little bit of, little signs of dyslexia sometimes. So let's do it one more time. I apologize if I'm being annoying. We're going to have 1.93 is equal to 0.28 times 0.528 plus 0.205 times minus 1.7 plus 0.515 times X. And that's going to give us the beta of the remainder of our portfolio. This is some pretty interesting stuff. The beta of the remainder of our portfolio, we're going to zoom in a little bit just to write it down effectively. The beta of the remainder of our portfolio can actually be written as simply being, the beta of the 8 remaining stocks can be written as being equal to 4.13720. So that's going to be the beta of our 8 remaining stocks. That's some pretty impressive stuff. Okay, this is going to be part A. I don't know why I didn't write that. Part A. Now we can move into part B. Part B is now very easy for us because all that we have to do is solve for the new portfolio beta. It's going to be simple. We're going to write it here as being part B. That we're going to say that this is solved for beta of our portfolio prime, so the new beta. Now we know that beta of our new portfolio would be simple. It's going to be the weight invested in the risk-free rate times the beta of the risk-free rate plus the weight of the 8 stocks that we just don't have information on times the beta of those 8 stocks. And what's awesome now is that we literally have all of the information. And of course, we're solving for the beta of our portfolio, right? That's our unknown here. But all else we do have. We have all of this stuff. So solving for this unknown becomes really easy. So let's plug those like numbers in. We're going to have the beta of our portfolio, which is going to be equal to, if I'm not mistaken, 0. I guess I'll keep it as percentages. 48.5% times 0 plus 51.5% times 4.13720. Okay, and then we could get the beta of our portfolio. Now, a quick note before we kind of like get our number here. Obviously, something multiplied by 0 would give you 0. There's just no other way to go about this. So this right here would automatically not exist anymore, okay? Such that the only portion of our calculation would be simply 51.5% times 4.13720, okay? So we could go ahead and actually solve for that. So we could say this times 4.13720, and the answer will be 2.130658. So 2.130658. Now, do I have the memory of a G, or do I have awful memory? We'll see. Yeah, that's amazing. So I'm able to transcribe stuff. I'm pretty impressed. But that's going to be your answer, okay? Now, a few like key takeaways that I'd like to give you, such that you're able to have a sense check when you're doing these questions on an exam. So I guess I'll have to zoom out a little bit more. Notice a few things. Notice that the beta of our portfolio actually increased. The reason why it increased is because we don't hold, and I guess I'll put these like I don't know, like put them in like pink. We don't hold our position in Shindo Co, which has a negative beta. So obviously having a negative beta is going to bring down the beta of our portfolio by a lot. And unfortunately for us, it's going to bring it down way more than a beta of 0. Okay, so that's why our portfolio beta definitely increased, because we don't have the same benefits of investing in a stock that has a negative beta. Okay, so that's a quick sense check. And technically, if you were a G, if you wanted to be quick with it, you would simply say, well, okay, I know now that the beta of the remaining assets, those 8 remaining stocks, is equal to 4.13. All I could do now is just multiply that by the weight of what's remaining, right? All that you had to do was multiply that by what was remaining. You didn't have to kind of like follow through with this step. That was just me trying to like, really walk you through them. So that's just a few like pointers. This is probably, and then also another thing that I'd like to say, sorry if I'm kind of all over the place. Notice how here we couldn't use the classic trick that we have here, for example, and the classic trick that we would have maybe here as well in this question at page 14, in which we know that everything is equally invested. Notice how it says equal investments in each of 10 different equities in this question. And then in the next question, it also says equal investments in each of 12 equities, okay? The reason why we couldn't use that same technique, right, that we have right here, is simply because right now in this question, notice that our 10 stocks weren't equally distributed. We had 20.5 in Shindo, we had 28% in Nero, then we had 51.5% distributed among 8 different stocks. We do some quick math, that's about like 5.1 or 2% per stock. So clearly they're not equally distributed, and for that reason, you can't use that tour de passe-passe, or that magic trick that I like to coin so well. And for that reason, we had to use a different technique, which is the OG technique, the real classic step-by-step technique, right? But simply, still, it's divided into 2 simple steps. Find the beta of the remaining stocks that were not discussed within the prompt, right? You find that by just plugging everything in and solving for the missing piece, which would be X in this case, or the beta of those 8 remaining stocks. Then once you have that, you could just simply multiply that number by the weight of those 8 remaining stocks. And that's going to give you the beta of the portfolio. Remember, the reason why we're doing that is because we know that whatever the weight of our position or our investment in the risk-free rate, it'll have no like tangible value because we know that the beta of the risk-free rate is 0%. Notice how we crossed off everything right here. Okay, so that's how you go about it. Hopefully that gave you context. I really do hope so. And if you need more tools or resources or just some like general feedback and exposure to practice problems or theory or context still on anything related to intro to finance, you could definitely find that on ismahelps.com or on Isma Helps YouTube channel, or literally just by typing in Isma Helps online. You will find an abundance of contents and PDFs and tools that will help you really make your learning process as a business student something that's carefree, that's also free and interactive and human. Like I really do care about your success, and it's time that somebody does. So hopefully this can bring you closer to that process of getting the grade that you deserve. So that said, I'll see you in another video.